take a second and think about everything humans know today: language, medicine, mathematics, the internet. Every single one of those took thousands of years to build, piece by piece, generation by generation. But here's something worth sitting with: the next 50 years might reshape human knowledge more than the last 5,000 did. Not because we're smarter than the people who came before us, but because for the first time, we have tools that can learn, adapt, and build on themselves. So in this video, we're going to take a slow walk through what's coming. Not science fiction, not guesses pulled out of thin air. Just a timeline built on research that's already happening right now in labs, universities, and companies around the world. We'll go decade by decade, and along the way, we'll be honest about what's solid science and what's still just a possibility. Let's start close to home: the next 10 years. If there's one shift defining this decade, it's this: AI stops being a tool you use and starts becoming something closer to a partner you think with. Right now, AI models can already help write code, summarize research papers, translate languages, and generate ideas in seconds. But what's coming next is deeper integration. Scientists are already using AI to speed up the search for new medicines, cutting years off the process of finding a molecule that might treat a disease. Some of the most promising new drug candidates in the next decade may come not from a single scientist's insight, but from an AI model exploring millions of possibilities a human never could. Now let's talk about medicine itself. One of the most exciting developments is gene editing, tools like CRISPR that let scientists make precise changes to DNA. For years, this technology lived mostly in labs and small trials, but it's moving into real, approved treatments, starting with rare genetic diseases and slowly expanding from there. Alongside that is the idea of personalized medicine. Instead of a single treatment designed for the average patient, doctors are moving toward care built around your specific genetic makeup. Same disease, different treatment, because your biology isn't identical to anyone else's. Education is shifting too. For most of history, one teacher taught the same lesson to 30 students at the same pace, whether they were ready or not. AI-based learning tools are starting to change that, quietly adjusting explanations, pacing, and difficulty to match how each individual student actually learns. It's not about replacing teachers, it's about giving every student something closer to a personal tutor. And then there's something a little more futuristic sounding, but very real: brain-computer interfaces. These are devices that read electrical activity in the brain and translate it into digital signals. Right now, the main use is medical, helping paralyzed patients control a cursor, a robotic arm, or even speak again through a computer. It's early, it's limited, but it's a real glimpse into a much bigger shift in how humans and machines might one day communicate. Not through screens and keyboards, but more directly. By the early 2030s, none of this will feel like science fiction anymore. It'll just feel like how medicine, school, and work quietly work now. Now, let's move further out, into the 2040s and 2050s. This is where individual technologies stop staying separate and start blending into each other. Let's start with energy, because it quietly supports everything else on this list. Solar power keeps getting cheaper and more efficient. Battery technology keeps improving, solving one of clean energy's biggest problems: storing power for when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. And then there's fusion, the same reaction that powers the sun. It's incredibly hard to achieve here on Earth, but research is advancing, and many scientists believe a working fusion reactor, feeding real power into the grid, is realistic within this window. If even part of this comes together, it could mean most of the world's energy comes from clean, abundant sources, quietly, without most people even noticing the transition happening around them. Now, space. For decades, going to space meant short missions, astronauts up for weeks or months, then back home. But multiple space agencies and private companies are actively planning something different: permanent presence, research stations on the moon built to stay, not just visit. And potentially the first crewed missions to Mars, not tourism, but genuine scientific expansion, learning how biology, physics, and human survival work somewhere that isn't Earth. This isn't only about exploration for its own sake. Living somewhere with different gravity, different radiation exposure, different everything teaches us things about human biology we literally cannot learn any other way. Let's talk about something more personal: aging. This is still one of the more uncertain areas of science, but it's attracting serious research funding because the potential impact is enormous. The goal isn't necessarily living forever, it's closer to compressing illness, living more of your life in good health and less of it in decline. Some researchers believe meaningful progress on healthy lifespan is realistic within this window. Others are more cautious. It's a genuine, open question. And finally, access to knowledge itself. Right now, a huge portion of the world still doesn't have reliable internet access, and language remains a real barrier to information. Two things could change that. First, real time AI translation, good enough that a conversation between two people speaking different languages feels almost seamless. Second, cheaper, more decentralized internet infrastructure, satellite networks, and new technologies that don't require the massive infrastructure traditional internet needed. Together, these could connect billions of people to global knowledge for the very first time in human history. By 2060, the boundaries between AI, biology, energy, and communication start to blur. They're not separate stories anymore, they're one story. Now we get to the part where honesty matters most. Past 2060, nobody, no scientist, no futurist, no AI, actually knows for sure what happens. But there are ideas worth exploring seriously, not as predictions, but as real possibilities being discussed today. The biggest one is artificial general intelligence, often shortened to AGI. This is the idea of an AI that isn't just good at one thing, like writing or image recognition, but can reason, learn, and adapt across almost any domain, similar to how a human mind works. If this happens, it could be one of the most significant events in human history, comparable to the discovery of fire or the invention of writing. It could accelerate scientific discovery, medicine, and problem solving at a pace we can barely imagine. But it also raises real, serious questions. How do we make sure something that intelligent remains safe, aligned with human values, and under meaningful human oversight? This isn't a hypothetical concern. It's one of the most actively debated topics in AI research today. And reasonable, well-informed people disagree about how close we actually are and how much risk it carries. Next, synthetic biology. The idea that biology itself becomes something we can design, not just study. Scientists are already engineering microorganisms to produce medicines, materials, and even fuel. Looking further ahead, some researchers imagine a future where we can design organisms for specific purposes. Resistance to disease, adaptation to new environments, even repairing damaged ecosystems. It's powerful. It's also ethically complex because the line between healing and altering life gets blurrier the further this goes. And finally, permanent life beyond Earth. This one is still very much a maybe, but it's no longer pure fantasy. Real organizations are planning, funding, and testing technology toward this goal today. If humanity does eventually establish lasting settlements beyond Earth, it would mean something profound. Human knowledge, culture, and survival would no longer depend entirely on a single planet. None of these four ideas are guaranteed. They depend on funding, politics, ethics, and frankly, a bit of luck. But they represent the honest edge of where serious research and speculation currently meet. Let's pause and be really clear about something important. Some of what we just covered is already happening, backed by real evidence today. AI assisting medical research, gene editing entering real treatments, renewable energy scaling up, personalized learning tools. These aren't predictions, they're already in motion. Other things, true general AI, radically longer lifespans, permanent settlements on Mars, those remain genuinely uncertain. They're possible. Serious people are working toward them. But they are not guaranteed, and anyone who tells you otherwise in either direction is probably overselling their confidence. And maybe that uncertainty is actually the most important lesson here. Human knowledge has never moved in a straight, predictable line. It moves in unexpected jumps, shaped by curiosity, by collaboration across countries and disciplines, and by the everyday choices being made in labs, governments, and communities right now, while you're watching this. So where does that leave us? The future of human knowledge isn't something that simply happens to us, like weather rolling in. It's something built quietly, one discovery, one experiment, one decision at a time. Some of what we covered today will turn out to be completely wrong. Some of it will happen faster than anyone expects. That's the honest truth about trying to look ahead. But one thing is certain. The next 100 years of human knowledge are still being written.